We're so glad you're here.
We believe in bringing in experts to inspire and to educate women so that they can live empowered, fulfilled, and successful lives.
When women support women, we change the world. Here we go.
You're going to love this program.
So who are we talking to today?
Well, pretty excited about this conversation. Our guest is just an exceptional leader in her firm, her profession, and in her community. She's really been an important role model to so many women, whether it's been colleagues, her friends, and importantly, her daughter for sure. Yeah, and what I admire about her is that her practice is founded on compassion and empathy, and that as an attorney, she's aware that she has a responsibility to be aware of each person's needs and seeking the most appropriate solution for them. It's not just about winning and losing. And I really appreciated that when I heard her say that, to help clients adopt that mindset and to always be in that mindset, which I know we're advocates of. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Beth McCormack, an equity partner at Beerman LLP.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Thanks
Welcome.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump into the conversation, there's a few more things I need to tell our audience. So Beth practices exclusively in family law matters with experience in really complex litigation, mediation, and collaborative law. She also has repeatedly been nominated by her peers as a leading attorney, a best lawyer, as well as a top 50 women super lawyer and top 100 super lawyer. Do you have a cape on, Beth? By the way?
No, please.
And no surprise, her service and success is certainly one reason that Crain's Chicago media named her a most influential woman lawyer. So Beth, thank you for all that you do for us, for others. Our Women's Forum theme this year is about designing and living your brilliant life, which is something that you really emulate and you've helped a lot of other women accomplish. So what has been your path to designing and living your brilliant life?
Gosh, great question. I have an interesting path, maybe to some, in that I'm a small town girl. I grew up in downstate Illinois in a town called Gibson City and moved to Chicago to go to law school, and decided that being a lawyer was an important thing to me because I love serving others, helping others. And initially I did that in the pro bono space, assisting survivors of domestic violence. So that path brought me into family law. And as a family law attorney, I still do some domestic violence, but now I'm more of a fundraiser and a thought leader in the field, working on legislation and such. And I practiced in family law in a much smaller firm until about 8 years ago, when I moved to Beerman LLP. And there I have built my practice around problem solving and working in family law a little differently. And now I feel like I'm leading my best brilliant life because I'm able to help people find a path forward that's right for them. Unfortunately, not all family law matters can be solved efficiently and effectively. Some people still have to get the fight out. So I do that as well. I oversee litigation, but personally, I work in the ADR, which is alternative dispute resolution area. And that's where I can really help people think about their goals and their concerns. And we negotiate from that platform rather than a positional platform where there's winning and losing. So I feel like I'm living my most brilliant life by doing what I do well. I softened the litigation side once I realized that I could be more authentic because I tend to be a kind, gentle person and less pushed. And doing this kind of work allows me to be more true to who I am as a human rather than a fighter or this winning or losing destructive kind of position.
It's funny. I admire that approach, Beth, the approach of trying to articulate goals and then trying to um, determine an outcome from there. Because I think if you, and maybe this is my sense, but when you take that approach, it preserves more of the humanity, more of what perhaps can be preserved from the relationship, perhaps. Yeah.
They remain a family,
Right.
especially if there's children, and it's just restructuring. And so, why would you have a judge or a third party decide where your child's going to rest their head every night?
Mm,
Why would you relinquish control over how much money is in your bank account? At some point, if you could put your problem solving hat on and actually put your heads together and out of the winning and losing mode,
yeah.
maintaining control is what most people want as humans, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about, what you do is help people perhaps shift their mindset, because when you come from a perspective of collaboration versus confrontation, or just that anxiety, that again,
that's
there
right.
there hopefully will be a better outcome.
Often that maintaining control is a better outcome, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious about, how do you help others, especially women, um, come into their courage, and to find their courage to be more, to step into their power and to find greater fulfillment in their own lives?
So I would say the vast majority of my career, I have impressed upon every client, but often women need to be reminded to be resourceful and go to others.
Mm,
So every case I have, I recommend a therapist or a coach. A therapist helps you kind of unpack what brought you here, and a coach helps you go forward. Sometimes people need both. I also send every client to someone like you to help empower them financially. Because all too often, it's very stereotypical, but all too often, women are scared of money.
yeah,
I personally um, was scared of money. I'm trying to get better and better myself. Uh, but I feel like it's important to be resourceful and tap into all the professionals that can help you on the things that you don't know.
right.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah,
Right. I think your willingness to be vulnerable
That's
and
right.
to really connect with what it is that you need and ask for it is so important. We're so used to just helping others and not necessarily focusing on what our needs are. And it takes a lot of strength sometimes to ask for help.
It does.
But that's what, Barbara, that's what I know you believe this as well. Asking for help has often been seen by women as a sign of weakness, when in fact, surrounding yourself with that team and that support network or that tribe or whatever you want to call it is really just one, priceless, and a sign of really deep strength, I think.
I agree with you, Nancy. I somehow, as a society, hopefully our next generation won't ever know of it, but somehow asking for mental health services became a weakness. And what a disservice we've done with all the tragedy that's going on in the world right now. And there is a mental health crisis. Hopefully, people are getting the importance of those resources and that no
Hmm.
human could do it alone.
Hmm.
When I first started practicing family law, there was some notion that you were not a good mother if you were on medication to help you or if you were in therapy. And now it's almost the opposite. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't exercise the self help, it could work against you.
Yeah, I'll never forget when my therapist said, "Look, divorce is a contract, and that's
Mm.
all it is, or marriage is a contract. So you've got to make sure that you to speak to somebody and work through some of these issues so that you come to the table in a much better place with greater peace and clarity so that you really get focused on what the best outcomes are." And that was the best advice that I ever got and that I've
Hmm.
given to others actually who've been in my same situation.
That's great. Yeah.
And also, I think that taking that strategy, Barbara, also allows you to move forward. I mean, Not that
Right.
it happens instantaneously by no means, but you try not to carry around baggage or bitterness or anything like that.
Well, and Beth, I have that's a big question I have. So
Yeah.
I think our society has become such a victim-oriented society. Have you noticed that whole narrative we have? Everyone's pointing the fingers at everybody else, and I feel like in your area of law that can happen a lot. Is that exacerbated? Have the better approaches to collaborate mitigated that, or how has that impacted what you do?
Well, again, in ADR, alternative dispute resolution, whether it's in mediation or collaborative law, you're impressing upon people the importance of working together and problem solving, not having a winner or loser or a victim or a perpetrator. No one is all good, no one is all bad. And we're really modeling that behavior for them in those negotiations, good practitioners. There are lawyers that unfortunately can't get out of their own way and just only have a one track way of doing things. And so they're not necessarily modeling that, they're actually stirring the pot a little bit more. But a good practitioner, a good mediator, a good lawyer will talk about the need to stay aligned
Hmm.
and not have that winning losing mentality.
Right, right. So, Beth, what inspires you to really push the boundaries and to be more of who you can be and to serve others more effectively?
So I'm forever working with coaches myself to figure out what's going to make me happy and what's going to make me feel fulfilled at the end of every day, right? So family law, as you can imagine, is a trying area of the law. It's a trying, we take on a lot of emotion all day, every day. So I am consistently trying to figure out how to do things better myself and then how to lead other younger lawyers in the profession. And I'd like to think that I've made a difference in kind of the way people practice, at least locally. I am the member of an international organization where we do this good work. And I believe that people are shifting away from the winning, losing, victim perpetrator mentality. And hopefully, family law, by the time I'm done doing this work, will be a much softer, gentler way. People like Gwyneth Paltrow, who made the concept of conscious uncoupling famous. It was not hers, by the way, but she did make it famous. And when celebrities and the like kind of bring things down, it's helpful. Then you hear about Johnny Depp and other situations that are just horrifying and kind of showing the worst in humanity as far as conflict resolution. So
Hmm.
I think I personally like to spread the good work of doing things differently. That's what fulfills me.
I
Yeah.
love that. I
Nice.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of your biggest challenges?
I would say the biggest challenge right now is getting people out of their own way and
Yeah.
consistently trying to remind them to hold their own power, to hold their own truth. Um, and back to what your therapist, the advice that you were given, Barbara, I feel like the more of us who empower other women, whether it's your sister, your friend, your colleague, we just have to keep reminding each other of the importance of authenticity
Hmm.
and how can we lift each other up. All too often, this winning losing mentality, Barbara, as you say, I feel like there's no good outcome from it. Uh, all levels rise. I'm forever reminding my partners, my colleagues, the importance of coming from a place of abundance and not scarcity.
Right.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. that abundance element. And I think we talk about that a lot in just having a positive money mindset,
That's right.
because then, and that really does correlate to the work that you do, because when you get caught in scarcity, then that's when you want to go for more, and you want things, maybe the financial elements, and you lose sight of some of the other elements that are super important in the process also. And you can end up making worse decisions because they're driven by scarcity emotions and that insecurity.
And I think that those, that mindset coupled with things like shame and the fact that a lot of women feel they failed at a marriage. I mean, relationships change, relationships evolve. And I always, I've went through it myself. I have some siblings who got divorced with children. I don't have children, but you've got to love on your kids and love your kids so deeply, more than you don't like one another right now, type of thing. And there's no failure and no blame of anyone.
Right. Yeah, shame, I feel like, again, is a little bit generational. And I'm praying that those of us of this generation will ensure that we don't bring that upon our children, our daughters in particular. I think shame is a dreadful thing.
Totally.
Thankfully, there's a lot of people educating us on the importance of not jumping into that shame game.
Yeah, totally. But I think what also really helped me was, as much as I felt like I was wronged, in my marriage or whatever, I had to own my part in the failure. It's never one person's fault, right? So I just knew that, and that helped me really be in a much better place to own that and take that responsibility. That's what helped me move forward, because I think it's so easy to get stuck in that victim or in that bad place.
That's right. I also try to help people realize that you reap what you sow. I don't know what cliche is most appropriate, but boy, if you put bad energy out into the universe, it really does come right back. And I actually have an Instagram page that people say inspires them, because I'm consistently putting out the good, while divorce feels like what could possibly be good from it. Well, what's good from it, of course, is that you are finding your best self, hopefully, and that you're going forward, and whatever that means for you as an individual. And positivity is crucial, because, of course, there's a lot of ways to be a victim.
Yeah,
That
totally.
just doesn't help you in the end.
We have a saying in our women's forum that's part of our positive money mindset that suggests that you should think of yourself as a victor.
Love it.
Rather than a victim. And while coming out of a divorce, you don't feel victorious. Sometimes, some people may, but it's just that shift of that mindset can mean so much.
Right.
Yeah.
And Beth, that also leads to something that I wanted to ask you. So we're talking about a lot of the challenges and how you do help people. If you ran the world and had supreme power, what would you do? What change would you make? What law would you enact? What would be the first thing that you'd want to do?
Kindness first. I feel like if just one person, you guys probably recall after 9/11, how as a society, we all shifted our thinking for a little bit. It felt like 10 minutes. But I feel like, people waved their flags if that's what was important to them, whatever was important to them. But people shifted into a place of kindness. So if, I don't know that it could be a law, but if we could all just go out into the world each day, knowing that if you just do one little act of kindness, it comes back 1,000-fold always. And there's so much sadness right now that I feel like even with darkness, if you're kind to one another, life is better for everyone.
Yeah, try to be the
Amen
light to
to that.
somebody. Yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned earlier, Beth, that there's a lot of emotions in the work that you do. Are you able to kind of close the door at the end of the day, put that down? And how do you practice self-care and what, you know?
It's a great question. And my answer often is when people ask, how do you do it day in and day out? I respond with, ask a pediatric oncologist how he or
Oh,
she does what they do, right? Adults come to me with adult problems, and I'm there to help them solve those. So, perspective, I feel like, is
Sure.
one of my
Yeah.
best things that I do for myself. But then I also am constantly reminded by people who love me and my therapist that that's not always enough, right? Because you do have to have some plan for self care. So I do love to be outside. I love to recharge my batteries outdoors and ideally in good weather. Living in Illinois, you all sometimes have to go elsewhere in order to feel good being outside. But I very much enjoy my tribe. I have a group of women that I'm consistently building, and there's so much satisfaction in introducing your tribe to other tribe members and
Hmm.
seeing that grow. And you guys have built a beautiful thing within your organization that you can just see women empowering women and just the beauty in that.
well, thanks. Yeah, definitely that energy of
Mhm.
connecting people, and it grows, you know, just so tremendously once you start to do that. The exponential growth of the
Yes,
support and energy. It's good, and it gives back. To your point, when you put that good out, it
Hmm.
just comes back to you, right?
well, and you guys always have the philanthropic component too.
Hmm.
I feel like, whenever I leave an event that you've had, I feel good about being with the women that I'm with, but also that we've done something good for someone else that day. So it's always fun.
Well, thanks. And that's what I love about the work you're doing to help victims of domestic
Thank you.
violence. It's such an important topic and issue, and being able to use your skills and of course that the empathy that you have for others to help them improve their situation is so important. We're lucky to be able to help others that might not
That's right.
benefit from our experiences.
And we might have a voice that they may not always feel they have,
Right.
and giving them a voice. And all too often as a society, back to the blame game, it's easy to blame a victim of domestic violence. Well, why didn't she leave? Well, I could do about
Right.
24-hour podcast on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Financial being one of the biggest components, right?
Yeah.
Some very often, I'll stereotype and say women survivors of domestic violence because they are far more often the victim. Uh, there's a financial imbalance of power, and that keeps them in a relationship just simply because they don't feel safe and secure financially.
Hmm.
Well, that's so true. And that actually brings us to really the next conversation point. You of all people dealing with potentially dissolution of a marriage in your work that you do to help victims of violence, financial life is, and your financial freedom is so key to sometimes to your ability, impacts your ability to move forward in a direction you want to go in. So then how have you been intentional with using or building your financial resources to make sure you've got that freedom and that you're a good um, steward of your financial well-being?
So I always save first and try to have fun with what I have remaining. I would love to have a new handbag every season. I would love to have all those things. But actually, I think with age, I've decided that I don't care much about things anymore. Experiences are far more important to me right now. So I save first for my future so that I can have a period in my life when I'm not working as much. I don't know that I'll ever really retire, but I love the idea of saving for winding down time, but also for that autonomy to be able to travel and do things that I love, rather than have things. And it's pretty much how I was raised. I come from a modest background. I don't have any real needs, so I have always just saved first to ensure that
Mm.
I can just meet my basic needs at the end of the
I
day.
love that. I'm staring at my vision board for this year, and one of my quotes is gratitude turns what we have into enough.
Ah, so true.
And like just your remark before about stuff, things, no, I think so many of us are getting to the point where it's just we just realize it's just stuff.
That's
Um,
right.
Right.
and not bringing me, as Marie Kondo says, joy type of thing. So clutter, yes; joy, no. So
Right.
um, and I'm curious. You mentioned, first of all, I'm going to follow you on Instagram because I love anything having to do with positivity and mindset, and so much of what you have said today resonates with me. And so we're curious, what's next for Beth?
Well, as a family law attorney, we can only work or attorneys are licensed in each state. So I have had the pleasure of, working in Chicago and in Illinois my whole career. I feel like I'd like to do something a little more globally or around the country where I can do this kind of thoughtful, conscious uncoupling, and help others around the country realize the importance of maintaining control over their outcome. So I do have a vision and a dream and just the beginning of a path forward on how I could do that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think that
exciting.
there is definitely a platform and an audience out there for that, and we would love to support you in that and do whatever
Absolutely.
we can to help you. So
Thank you. It's
yeah.
exciting to think of making a bigger difference. For whatever reason, it's not about me. It's about helping spread the good word of the work that needs to be done.
Mm.
Right. That's legacy, right? That's really like
That's
the
it.
end of the day, uh, asking you, oh, how many cases did you win in your career versus, what change did you
Impact.
make or influence? How did
Right.
you help others? I mean, what a powerful legacy that is, right?
It's interesting, Barbara, that you say that. And back to the money piece, I had a famous divorce educator reach out to me and ask me to do a podcast with her. And she wanted to title it The Billionaire Divorce Lawyer. And I was mortified. I'm like, that's
Mm.
crazy. First of all, what does that even matter? Who really listens? Well, interestingly, the course of the conversation went to the place of normalizing that yes, a billionaire matter is complex, but the reality is it's all the same. They're two humans who happen to amass a lot of wealth and they have to divide that wealth, right? They have to be thoughtful in doing it. In the course of doing this podcast, I I was just being authentic and explaining some of the unique challenges and normalizing it mostly. Interestingly, I have gotten more calls, and that's what has driven me to think about doing this a little more nationally.
Oh, that's great.
Those calls have come from people all around the country who are like, "You're a unicorn, the unicorn we've been looking for," because divorce lawyers tend to have a reputation to make things more complicated than they need to be. And I think I must have come across as somebody who doesn't get any more excited about their matter than anybody else's matter, and that they have to resolve their differences just like everybody else.